Introduction. We live in a very stressful world. You probably don't need me to remind you of that fact. Why are we so stressed out? Why do we feel so much pressure? Why does it seem like contentment and peace are so hard to find? Well, for most people, they simply just have too many duties, responsibilities, distractions, and routines taking up their time and attention. If you were to slice and dice and dissect your daily schedule, you probably would fit into this category as well. There's just so much that you have to cram into your mind every single day. It is no surprise that a lot of people develop the following symptoms of stress. They have short attention spans. When they read stuff online, they can barely pay attention until another item shows up on their Facebook timeline, and they forgot about the stuff that they were reading before. They don't really read materials, they just scan. That's how short most people's attention span is. Next, stressed out people overreact emotionally. It seems like everything that you perceive or become aware of is some sort of judgment or is somehow, some way related to you. You personalize everything. Everything's personal. And it's no surprise that you tend to react emotionally. This may be due to the fact that you're stressed out. You may be reading too much into things. But unfortunately, once we open our mouths, we end up hurting people. We end up making decisions that we come to regret later on. Another symptom of too much stress is simply a lack of patience. You don't feel like you want to stick around for anything. This is a very serious problem because it can lead to road rage if you're stuck in traffic. This can lead to violent disagreements with friends and family members. You might hurt your relationships because you simply have grown impatient in dealing with people. People are people. It often takes time for people to get their act together. Finally, you get this generalized sense of anxiety and frustration. You can't quite put your finger on it, but you feel that something is missing in your life. You feel that something is just not right. Not surprisingly, it's very hard for you to find peace and contentment. It seems that at any given second, something wrong might happen. It may lead to you losing money, or it may lead to you suffering from some sort of illness. Whatever the case may be, something's off. Something's not right. Rarely do you feel that if your world is perfect. It is no surprise that, given these symptoms, the Western world suffers from several systemic dysfunctions. In the Western world, there are high divorce rates. Too many people quickly conclude that their marriage is simply not worth saving. So this blows up the divorce rate. People are just not that patient with their relationships. Another symptom involves the high levels of drug use. This is particularly deadly in the United States because of the current opioid epidemic gripping that country. Some people have always self-medicated to deal with stress and anxiety. Maybe they smoke weed. Maybe they do cocaine. Maybe they shoot up heroin. Whatever the case may be, it numbs or suspends the pain for at least a period of time until they have to go back to the real world. Finally, the Western world, as well as Japan, has always suffered from high suicide rates. This is another reflection of the prolonged systemic dysfunction produced by depression, stress, and anxiety. If you need proof of this, just look at the top prescribed medications in any given year in the United States and many parts of the developed world. What do you see at the top? Antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications. This is guaranteed. In the top 10 of prescribed medications, you will always see those too. Something's got to give. Unfortunately, most of the time, it is you. Thankfully, there is a better way to handle your mental resources. You don't have to stress out. You don't have to freak out. You don't have to be emotionally on edge every single time. You don't feel like something wrong is going on or something's about to get knocked loose. The best thing about this better way of handling your mental resources is that it is 100% drug-free. That's right. No chemicals are involved. This method is also 100% natural. You deal with your mind as it exists. You don't have to buy a machine. You don't have to take drugs. You don't have to ingest anything foreign into your body. It is 100% natural. It works with how your mind works. It is also 100% conscious. You're not going to hypnotize yourself. You're not going to be under the mental control of another person. Finally, this system enables you to remain in 100% control of your mind. You call the shots. You pick the method, and you work with it. It works on your schedule, on your terms, and based on your needs. Sound awesome? Wouldn't you like to try this better way? Are you sick and tired of the regular ways you deal with stress, anxiety, and the daily strains of modern living? Well, here's the answer. Meditation. This training teaches you the ins and outs of practical meditation so you can come up with a solution that works best for you. Counting your breath. With this method, you're just going to focus on your breath and nothing else. By doing this, you achieve a tremendous amount of relaxation. If you practice this long enough, you can achieve a very deep and abiding sense of inner peace. It's fairly straightforward. There are really no moving parts. It's not complicated at all. Preparations. First, you need to find the right spot. Generally speaking, you should do this in an area where you're not going to be disturbed. There should be no distractions in terms of what you can see, hear, smell, taste, touch. It should be a place that will only be available to you for around 10 to 15 minutes. It doesn't really take all that long, but you have to be in the right spot for a long enough period of time for this meditative technique to benefit you. Second, you're going to close your eyes. This is a technique that you cannot do with your eyes open. Remember, we're basically going to avoid any kind of distractions. These distractions can be seen, heard, smelled, tasted, and touched. No distractions. So you close your eyes and you just focus on one thing and one thing alone. Third, focus only on your breath. How are you going to focus on your breath? Well, you're not going to focus on it by feeling it or hearing it. Instead, you're going to watch it. In other words, you turn your mental camera to your breath. You imagine yourself seeing yourself breathe in and breathe out. The key here is to feel it with your body and see it in your mind's eye. Eventually, these two sensations will line up. So it diverts your attention from the stuff going through your mind as well as the stimuli that your body is picking up. Instead, everything is focused on your breath. Your conscious attention is focused solely on your breath. You breathe in slowly and you breathe out slowly. Everything is focused on the area of your body where the breath is coming in and going out. The key here is to not control your breath. The key is to not be self-conscious. Instead, you're just paying attention to this natural flow. When you feel that there's a strain in your lungs, you're doing it wrong. It means you're being self-conscious. It means that you're trying to force things. This should not be forced. It is actually effortless. You're just basically turning that mental camera that you have from obsessing about all these stresses or drama happening in your life to just focusing on your breath. That's all it will be focused on. And if you keep this up long enough, you will become very, very relaxed. It leads to a tremendous amount of inner peace. However, let me tell you, in the beginning, it's going to be quite difficult. You might even feel bored. You might even feel like you're wasting your time. It's because this is something new. Your mind is not used to thinking this way. After all, your mind has grown accustomed to thinking about 1,000 different things at once. It's used to using up a tremendous amount of energy. Now, you're using very little energy and you're focusing on only one thing. As you can imagine, that takes some getting used to. The good news is it's worth doing because the calm and relaxation that you get will be priceless. Watch your emotions like clouds. Once you have done the previous meditative practices, the next step is to meditate in such a way that you let go of emotional attachments. Let's get one thing clear. Part of the reason why we're all so stressed out and anxious is because our memories are not emotionally neutral. When we perceive certain things, we tend to react a certain way because we have been trained by past experiences to respond that way. What if I told you that in many cases, we respond in a very unproductive and downright negative way? We could be responding in more neutral or more positive ways, and our lives could be more productive. Instead of wasting a tremendous amount of emotional and mental resources feeling negative, angry, frustrated, guilty, upset, you name it, we can focus more on feeling appreciated as well as content. It's all a choice. But unfortunately, if we hang on to these past memories and we judge them in a predictably negative way, we lose sight of the fact that we can always choose our judgments. We feel that our negative analysis is just who we are. It's part of our identity. It's part of our personality. Well, it isn't. It's always a choice. With this technique, you gain some freedom from the emotional roller coaster ride that you feel just takes you to negative territory like clockwork. Here's how it works. Step number 1, count your breath. Go back to the earlier video where I taught you how to count your breath. Watch your breath. Count it. Focus on your breath. At a certain point, you will relax. You can use the SEAL method, or you can use the more intensive breath counting and watching method I discussed earlier. Whatever the case may be, keep doing it until you sense relaxation. Step number 2, close your eyes. Once you feel that you have reached a certain level of relaxation, close your eyes. Everything should go black. Allow yourself to relax even deeper. Allow yourself to slow your thoughts down. Just focus on the calmness of the darkness. There's nothing to prove here. You don't have to be somebody that you're not. You have nobody to impress. This is just you and your thoughts. It's just calm, pure darkness. No light, no color, nothing to get worked up about. Step number 3, focus on your thoughts. Once you have relaxed, pretend that you are in some sort of movie theater and you're sitting back and you're seeing scenes. These are your thoughts. When you assume that perspective, you would realize that you're thinking a lot. If you're a normal person, a lot of mental images flash through your mind. In fact, we go through so many mental images, oftentimes we're not aware of them all. So sit back and just see your thoughts play out. Step number 4, make sure not to judge or analyze your thoughts. Here's the thing that you will be doing differently. Most people have no problem seeing mental images flash through their mind. But the problem is, once that happens, they get all emotionally caught up. For example, you had an ex who cheated on you, stole from you, or otherwise did bad things to you. How do you think you would feel when you see something that reminds you of him or her? You probably don't feel all that good. Now with this technique, when the mental image or the picture or the likeness of your ex comes to your mind, your rule is that you let the image flash, but you will hold judgment. You're not going to analyze it. You're just going to acknowledge that this is the image of my ex, this is the image of my boss, this is a scene from my childhood, this is a scene where I was let go at work, this is a scene at jail. Whatever the case may be, you're seeing all these mental images, but you're not judging. You are acknowledging. It's very important that you know the distinction. You're not engaged in pretending to not see something. For example, if there was a fire in your childhood, you're not going to say, well, this was a happy moment in my childhood. No, this was a fire in my childhood. But this is going to be different from this is a very traumatizing childhood memory that basically destroyed my life because I lost both parents. Do you see the difference? There's no judgment here. You just say, this is a fire that happened when I was a child. It's stripped out of all emotional baggage. It's stripped out of all emotional trauma. Acknowledge and describe in a very objective, flat, and neutral way. This is not going to happen overnight. If you are carrying around a very heavy weight, maybe child sexual abuse, maybe you were unjustly punished. Whatever the case may be, you just need to focus on what you see. Do not judge. Do not analyze. Just acknowledge it and then move on to the next step. Step number 5, let your thoughts pass like clouds. One of my fondest childhood memories involves me and my cousins just going up to this little hill, and for what seemed like hours, we would just lay back on the grass and watch the clouds pass by. My cousin would say, that's a bicycle. I would say, no, that looks more like a dog. There was, of course, no right or wrong answer. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Every person's guess was as good as all others. It was a lot of fun because we were exercising our imaginations. We were, after all, just watching clouds pass by. There were countless clouds before them, and there will be countless clouds after them. They are here one moment and gone the next. I want you to do the same with your thoughts, but let them pass like clouds. Just like clouds, your thoughts just pass through. Let them pass. Don't deny them. Don't pretend they are something else. Don't argue with them. Don't bargain with yourself. Just observe the thought clouds honestly. In other words, when the mental image flashes, acknowledge it. For example, this is a fire that happened when I was 3 years old. This is an image of my parents about to leave for the United States when I was 3 years old. Whatever image you have from the past, strip it of all emotional judgment or analysis. Make sure you empty the mental image of any emotional content that might trip you up or set you off into an emotional analysis. Compare this. This is the fire that happened when I was 3 years old. 2. This is that devastating fire that made my family homeless for 3 years. My father was very angry during that fire, and he has not stopped being angry since. We lost it all. I was only 3 years old. See the difference? The first case involved just describing the facts, nothing more, nothing less. The other case includes a lot of analysis and commentary. These lead to you getting thrown off track. Learn to spot the difference. Recognize the point when you stopped objectively describing and started emotionally reacting. It doesn't make it any less real, mind you, but you're just acknowledging it because we're not engaged in self-delusion here. We're not trying to trick ourselves or hypnotize ourselves into thinking that these events, which ultimately are very traumatic and hurtful, did not happen. Instead, you're just acknowledging. And then the next step is what makes it really powerful. When you acknowledge, you then let it pass like a cloud. Just like a cloud, it's going to zoom over your head. It's going to linger slowly, depending on how strong the wind is. But you just let it pass. Eventually, it will pass. Step number 6, enjoy the emotional distance. When you repeat this over several weeks, you start noticing emotional distance. Mental images, memories, or what have you, that used to throw you off track no longer do. Maybe there was a memory that used to make you cry like you were on autopilot. Now you don't do that. You just say, well, that happened to me when I was 4 years old and my housekeeper was in that memory. Then you let it pass. Well, that happened to be, and my boss said something and I was let go and I found another job. You let it pass. Well, that was my best friend and my ex-girlfriend. You let the memory pass. You do this over and over again, and the more successful you become at it, the greater the emotional distance. Eventually, All that stuff that used to drag you down and hold you back is left in the past. Congratulations.